So we're going to begin with some of the more basic, commonly used CSS properties, things like color and background color, changing font sizes, all of that stuff. And then we're going to talk more about selectors. So there is more to this first piece, right? Selecting, we've seen it already. You can select an element, or you can do fancy stuff like this. We will cover that, but we're going to begin with what goes in between these curly braces, the different properties that we can set for an element. And we're going to start with this one right here, color. So we can select, in this case, an H1 or all H1s, and set their color to be purple. The color property on MDN, I'm looking at it right here, is something that accepts a bunch of different types of values. Following this video, I'll actually have a standalone video on how color works in CSS. You can see there's all these different systems. We've got named colors, which you might be familiar with. We've got hexadecimal, RGB, HSL, HSLA, RGBA, all these different systems. But all of these values here just represent a color. However it's stored, how it's represented is different, but they're all just used to represent a color using text. Okay, so the color property is going to change the text color. So if we set this, a paragraph or something over here that's being updated, it's the text color. It's not the background color, it's simply the color of the text. And that's really all there is to it. So again, we're going to focus on colors in the next video, but if I make a couple of different elements here, I've got H2s, a bunch of them. Let's make a couple of buttons. Button 1, I'll duplicate that. Button 2, what else should we do? Let's do a paragraph of text with some lorem ipsum in there. Okay, so actually, you know what? Maybe let's do a little bit more. Let's do lorem times 3. Okay, so here's my paragraph, here's my buttons, and my H2s. I'm now going to hop over to my app.css, my style sheet, and we've already set color here to be indigo on all H2s. We can play around with some different values, right? We have the standard colors, red and orange and yellow. I'll show you the specific named colors we have. Let's go with something like teal. And as we've already seen, the text color changes on every H2. This is not the first H2, it's not the only one, it is all H2s in the document. So let's work on the buttons. Let's set them to have a color of, how about magenta? So when I refresh, what do you expect to see on these buttons? The text color changes to magenta, not the background, but the text. And then let's also do it for our paragraphs. So the P element, we use the name of the tag, right? P, button, H2. If we were making an anchor tag, or if we had an anchor tag over here, so the A, we're not going to write out anchor, we just write A. We use exactly the same syntax over here to select by element type. So H2 button, P tags are going to have a color of, how about olive? Sure. Not old lace. Well, let's just do olive. I didn't even know that was a color. And refresh. Okay, so that's working. But then we also have background color, which is different, and probably you can figure out what it does. It's going to change the background color of whatever element we are selecting, or elements we're selecting. So it's background dash color. And we can set both color and background color on an element. So if I wanted my buttons to have a different background color, I think the default is sort of a whatever grayish color, I could change it. Background dash color, and of course we have autocomplete here. So background dash color, thanks to VS Code. I'll go with, how about cyan? It's going to be quite the bright pair of buttons here. And there is our bright cyan background. I could do it on my H2s. I'll set background dash color to be, how about, we have teal there, pale, violet, red, papaya whip, how about plum? Refresh. There we go. Now remember, an H2 is an example of a block level element. It goes all the way across in this case. It takes up whatever space is available in the container it's in. In this case, it's the body. Our body goes all the way across. So it takes up all that space, and the text itself is small, but by default, the background will fill all of that up. Okay, so that's background color. One quick note, you may see this as well, people using background without the dash color. So for example, on my paragraph, I could set background to be orange. Now, if I refresh, that does work. It's changing the background color. But technically, background is a different property from background color. Background does a lot more than changing the background color. We could set a background image. We could set a gradient. We can do lots of things with this background property. We'll learn more about it. So just know that background color is the specific version just to change the color. Background, as you see it right here, is actually more powerful, or it has a lot more options. All right, so those are our first two properties.